Hey man, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to getting into your work and how we got here. So thank you for taking a minute out today.
Absolutely.
So let's begin our journey into something that was probably one of the biggest events of our lifetime, maybe the biggest event of our collective lives, which has been COVID. 5 years ago, this pandemic was going crazy, changing everything. How did you get through the pandemic of 2020 and how has it affected your life in 2025?
Man, cool question. This is probably the first time I've been on a public platform being able to talk about my experience throughout that. So I appreciate you
Yeah,
asking.
you bet.
So, I think back to my math class in high school quite a bit. And I was, at a very young age, 13, 14, 15, I was out there, telling the other kids, screaming in the classroom, hey, China's going to take over the world, this, and that. Because from a young age, my dad and my grandpa would always talk to me about the debt that America had and that China was buying our debt. And I really, at that level, never knew what that actually meant, how they were buying our debt, what that debt looked like, what did that mean, what were the implications going forward? Did they always do that? Those kind of questions weren't answered. But nonetheless, I always had this anti-authority and challenge the system and buck the system and kind of just I've always had this running up against the norms, the social structures, if you will, from being a young kid. So when COVID came around, I'll tell you flat out, the fog wasn't hard for me to see through when it came to the way that we were doing life normally. When it came to that being threatened over something that at the time I wasn't seeing, feeling, as far as threats were concerned, like there wasn't like actually in my reality, but my external was really changing with the lockdowns and the mandates and the masks and all of the all of the rhetoric and all of the shaming and the blaming and the pointing fingers and all of these manipulation games that were happening mentally from just people taking sides on things. I really had no problem at all stepping back and not living in a fear of our state of fear. That was one of the most opportunistic times for me. I actually talked to a lot of close personal friends, and share that in 2020 I really positioned my cash really extremely well, in certain asset classes, and in those asset classes rode them up during the 2021 kind of bull market phase, but into 2022, and did really financially well for myself. So, being positioned to do that also came from not being tempted by the fear or not being sucked into the noise or the narratives or what have you. And so it really allowed me to separate, the opportunity from what was going on and just kind of capitalize and stick with my head down, knowing that life is going to go on. So as far as that's concerned, maybe that might illuminate a little bit of my positioning as far as like, idea wise and logic wise and whatnot. But 2020 was a great, awesome year, and then 2020 and 2020 or 2021 and 2022, they were teaching years for me. I had a big net worth, a big amount of my net worth in cryptocurrency. I'm not sure if you follow very often, but cryptocurrency is extremely volatile. And so when I made a lot of money in 20 and 2021, 2022 and the end of 21 came around when things started imploding and crashing. So there was a lot of life lessons and learning lessons there financially for me. As far as spiritually and as far as materially and as far as, physically and mentally in 2025, I'm better than I ever have been. And it wasn't because of 2020. I won't say that, it stemmed from that directly, but without 2020, 2025 wouldn't be happening, to answer your
Yeah.
question kind of philosophically. And I think that it helped mold me from a freedom perspective just a little bit more than I already was, to get ready for my life here in 2025. Because now what I do is I'm a freedom worker. I help people with personal freedoms and achieving deeper levels of sensational awareness and things like that within inside of them. So I talk a lot about limitations and freedom work and that kind of stuff. And I think to talk to your question a little bit more, the 2020 was a big attack on freedom, with however you looked at it, whether it's freedom physically, freedom mentally, freedom emotionally, spiritually. I think a lot of people were challenged that year, and thus far. And yeah, for me, it was just it's been deeper levels of freedom, man, and it's been beautiful all around.
So if you had to explain what you do for a job on a daily basis to a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day, how would you explain what you do for a living?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's simple. I work with people one on one to help them realize the power of their imagination, and I help them tap into their feelings so that they can combine their imagination with their feelings to manifest the desired results in their life that they truly want.
So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream gig?
I thought about this not too long ago, and the easy answer for me is professional baseball player.
Yeah,
But something I realized about myself, man, and some programming that I picked up when I was a kid is I picked up the programming of being in a constant state of wanting from my father. So I would tell you that I wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to be a professional baseball player. And when I thought hard about it not too long ago, after I kind of like dissolved a lot of limitations I had from my own experience being in the realm of the state of wanting and not having, as I've been dissolving a lot of those limiting beliefs, I started realizing that every birthday that I wished for that baseball player to be true, I was using the words "I want to be a professional baseball player." So I kept my status in the state of wanting, right? And instead of moving from the state of wanting to the state of being or the state of having, I continued to manifest being in the state of wanting, which for me personally, I was able to work through and see like, wow, a lot of things that I've done in my life make sense because I was in a constant state of wanting and actually not having. I liked or enjoyed talking about what I was doing more than I actually liked doing it. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah,
So so just to kind of say, my personal freedom that I've achieved from the limiting beliefs I've accepted as a kid, you know, a lot of the things that we figure out about ourselves as an adult track back to when we're kids.
yeah. So what were the foundational elements of your childhood that have allowed you to have this confidence, to instill that confidence in your clients, to help them get what they want out of life?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I would say that my circumstances growing up as a kid certainly attributed to my confidence building. I would say that, moving around every single year, I lived in a new place every year and then went to a new school about 70% of the times that I moved. So I was constantly thrown into new environments, new schools, new maps of the schools, new classrooms, new teachers, new friends, new neighborhoods, new bus routes, things like that. I think that just stemming from that as a child, it forced me to be more open, and not just open minded, but open with my language. It helped me find more common ground with people because having a single mom growing up, she had a lot of wise advice for me. And one of those pieces of advice was to just always find common ground with people as best as you can. And so as you find common ground with people, what I've noticed as an adult is that you can also, as you find common ground, you can find what I called shared suffering. So you have common suffering between people. We suffer from the loss of loved ones. We suffer from personal issues, interpersonal regressions. We've got all these things that we can suffer from, substances, what have you. And so I think just in combination of my upbringing and my childhood and that confidence repeatability that I had to continue to shape and mold with the trauma and the suffering that I also endured as a kid and growing up, helping myself repurpose and reframe that and allowing me to see it as more of an opportunity to connect with others rather than a limitation. I think that's kind of when everything opened up for me and all of this work for my career started to make more sense for me.
So who's been that inspirational force in your life or the hero that's helped you evolve into who you are today?
Um, Honestly, when my first daughter was born, I will say that it really transitioned my sense of it helped me understand that I could shift my sense of identity, but it also helped me gain a sense of it helped me gain a sense of, I hate to use the word urgency, but it's the only one that kind of fits here. But it kind of granted me a sense of urgency for the first time in my life. Whereas like I'd always known that the way of thinking I had was a little separate from others in my classrooms or, other friends that I had. I always appreciated ideas and deep thinking and deep conversations because I think I'm very expansive as a person. And I do think that, my daughter, as she was born 8 years ago, it really put a fire underneath my behind, and it forced me almost to continue to look in places for change. And the older that I got, the only place that I recognized that would actually help with true change was going internally, was going right into myself, to going into the areas that I didn't want to address, to going into the areas that I was, I wasn't free from patterns or certain pattern thinking or responses. I was still giving my power up to external circumstances. So, anyways, to answer your question, my daughter really helps fuel that fire to go internally to figure out all of this stuff and to kind of spiritually grow a lot more to then help me obviously be in this position that I'm in today.
So if you can meet one person alive right now that's either a thought leader, someone that's inspirational, someone that you find amazing that might help you on your journey, spend a little time with them. Is there anybody like that that you would love to meet and talk to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just actually noticed, I just had the answer to this question a few days ago,
Yeah.
actually. So I want to say this, and hopefully maybe we can cut this and frame this and have this be spread. But if there was one person I could meet to help me on my journey, it'd be Elon Musk. And here's the reason. Elon Musk is hyper focused. I follow him on X quite a bit, but he's hyper focused on the external. He's laser focused on bringing humanity into the cosmos, bringing humanity into space and onto Mars or whatever the next mission is. My point is that Elon Musk is hyper focused on the external when I think the world could really see the change he's advocating for if someone in his position were just to look internal.
Yeah.
If he were to just go internal, I feel like the external would start figuring itself out at grander levels already than we are at now. I do think a lot of change is happening in humanity and in the human species realm. I do think with the acceleration of artificial intelligence and AI, I think a lot of the reflection that humanity is having that's being mirrored back to us from artificial intelligence shows us that AI is scary and shows us that the future in AI can be scary, but it's also the biggest opportunity that humanity has ever had because every relationship outside of us is a direct relationship that we have with our within our own internal. And so if we look at AI as separate from us, actually AI is something, it's mirroring something back to each individual user. Your
Yeah.
relationship with AI is going to actually reveal a lot back to you. And so what I'm getting to is someone as intelligent as someone who has mastered the mind as well as Elon Musk. I think he really is missing the point. The more he continues to go external and the more he continues to figure out what the secrets of the universe are. If he would just go internal, he would figure out that the secrets of the universe are really his internal pushed out. His imagination, his consciousness is pushed out, which is reflecting the external that he's experiencing. And that's the case for all of us.
Yeah.
That's the exact case for every single person. So that's, to answer your question, that's who I would have lunch with, or that's who I would talk with, and maybe this reaches him, and we can sit down and we can really create big, meaningful change in the world, and not at the expense of struggle and strive and all of these other things. I'm talking like those miraculous pieces of change that happen from the creator, God, what have you.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. As you help people like tap into their potential, find their dreams and who they are, there's an amount of risk that goes into it as a human being. What's the biggest risk that you've taken in your life so far?
Well, I'll just go ahead and poke my 2 cents in that question, and I'll say the only risk exists in my imagination. Whatever I believe the risk to be true and assume the risk to be, then it's going to be. So I'll just say that for the question framing, and just to go back into the question and answer kind of like in the past what my risks have been. I think it's been the biggest risks I've taken, or I should at least say the biggest risks in general that I've experienced have been inaction, have been not taking action. And I think when I found out the difference between action that comes from inspiration versus action that comes from desperation, I think once I really figured that out and once that really resonated with inside of me, everything really shifted and started to change because it wasn't just action. Because I used to always be told, I'm a guy that does he's paralysis by analysis, right? You're thinking too much about the problem, therefore you don't act, right? And so yes, people like myself, people like Elon Musk, people like all of these great thinkers will often use their minds to navigate the world. But what I like to teach people is that we have as humans the ability to step out of our mind and to identify with the higher self within us, whether that's God, imagination, what have you, spirit, soul, whatever. We have the chance to shift that identification point, and after we shift that identification point, inspired action just flows from us. Inspired action from a source that we're not even thinking about, right? It's like that inspired action to take this way to work instead of this way. And that way to work actually worked out better for you because this way there's a wreck or this or that. It's that unexplainable thing, right? And a lot of people, a lot of humans will identify that as God or divine intervention or what have you. But I like to think of it as if you're living from that higher self and identifying from that higher self, which is that being that was before all of the programming and all of the noise out there in the world that shaped you, that essence that you were without all of that, right? The identification point there will help you with inspired action, and then that's when the world doesn't really feel like that struggling or that barely making it, or I've got to sacrifice, or all of these things. No, not really. You just have to, what you accept is true. Where you assume the state of living from, how you're assuming that to be true, that's going to be your experience in the world. If you assume that life is full of ups and downs, and your life's going to be full of ups and downs. My life is full of ups. Right, like I'm very careful nowadays on what I assume to be true because I'm going to act from a place that is true in my reality, and then my external is going to reflect that back to me.
So, what gets you up every day? What is the motivator to do this work, to change lives, and to also nurture your own soul? What is that every day for you?
That's the higher self within me, man. That's the God within me. That's just acting. That's just acting as if, and that's as if the higher self is always in the driver's seat. As if my ego and all of the programming that make my experience different from others, or make my experience difficult or harder or what have you. I just let go of all of that mess, and I let go of all of that noise, and I really just allow myself to just be.
So,
And so by being, then I'm just naturally energetic, and I have the flow.
yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. So, let me ask you this. If you ran into an 18-year-old version of you in a
Mhm.
dream tonight, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated, would you give that younger version a piece of advice? And if you did, what would you give that? What would be the advice?
I, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him that piece of advice. And the reason being is because the man that I am today experienced the 18-year-old Trey, and that 18-year-old Trey was desperate for a mentor. He was desperate for guidance. He was desperate for frameworks. But I think that experience helped mold how deep I've gone within these frameworks in my own experiences. I think that if I would have had that help at 18, I think I would have I don't believe I would have gone as far as I have today.
Yeah.
Because when it's different when someone teaches you something, it's one thing and you apply it in areas of your life, but when you've got to go in and learn it for yourself and practice it for yourself and find the answers for yourself, you apply it in a much different way in life. And I think that the latter application and the latter learning and application experience for me has just been so perfect. So I probably wouldn't have ruined it if I had the opportunity to do so. But if it was in a dream, maybe I would just say some. Maybe I would say some kind of funny. I sometimes I like riddles. Maybe I would give him some funny riddle and tell him like, hey, like is I probably would tell him as deep as you feel, you're gonna be 35, 33 one day, and no matter how deep you're feeling, you can always choose to feel whatever you want. That's what I would tell them.
So, of everything that you've done in your life up to this point and accomplished and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
I'm the proudest of my of the identity I have of being a dad. That's pride is something here in the physical and humanity, but if I had to share my pride, it's usually with my two girls. I have a daughter who's 8 and one that's almost 3, and I get to homeschool one of them, and I spent 2 years homeschooling her previously, and the other one, it's such a beautiful challenge because she mirrors back to me all of the areas that I still need growth. Like patience, and I don't feel anger a whole lot, but my daughter, my second daughter, really brings up a whole lot of opportunities for me to address my anger and triggers. And yeah, I just think that being a dad has been the ultimate benefit and the ultimate um, prized possession, if you will. Like me being able to call myself a dad is, yeah, I hold that high.
So, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, that you're in control, you run the show. What is your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. So it really just depends on where I'm answering from. Like I'm at peace knowing that I've done a lot of dissolving work of my ego, dissolving work of my I amness is what I call it, the I am narratives that we hold about ourselves. Getting into that deep work really reveals back to me that there's so much that I still don't know about that spiritual being of me. And the more that I just assume that identity, the more I get to kind of experience it. And the more I realize, hey man, like I'm pure love, I'm abundant, I'm timeless, I'm boundless. I don't have any limitations. The only limitations I have to have it as a human is the ones I accept as true. And each experience that I have in this human realm, whether I'm triggered or whether I'm bothered or I'm at a loss or what have you, whatever disruption I'm facing is the biggest opportunity for me to find deeper levels of freedom.
So, if anybody out there is curious, they have questions, they want to hire you, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
You can find me at YPayTrey is my handle on social media. It's WHYPAYTREY. And then you are more than welcome, just hearing the show, you're more than welcome to reach out to me via email. And the email is ypaytreymedia@gmail.com. And it's just again ypaytreymedia, MEDIA at gmail.com. And you guys, listening, more than welcome to reach out to me just to ask questions and to talk about things, because each individual that reaches out to me is a reflection I have back to myself, of getting better at my craft, or helping someone in need that couldn't return the favor, or I've got a lot of projects that I'm working on, like a private school and a decentralized ecosystem that's going to challenge the health insurance model here in America. And there is a lot of things I'm putting together, and so just the more people that reach out and the more I can build my network, the more I can make those dreams possible.
Wonderful. Trey, this has been absolutely great. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you for your energy. Best of luck with everything. I appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Joe. Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.